This is the Ibanez Quest headless guitar, and it has one of Ibanez's legendary naming schemes. But in all seriousness, this is actually a really great guitar. There's a lot of things I really love about it. There are a few things I don't like about it, so we'll talk about that in this video. And then at the end, I will compare it to Strandberg, since that's the question I know a lot of you have. So we have the Strandberg back here, which is around $1,800. We have the Strandberg Modern Essential over here, which is $1,000. And then this Quest guitar is right about $1,100 or so. So we'll compare it to those guitars as well at the end. So there's not really much to discuss with this particular headless locking hardware. We have just one screw to secure the string, and then we have our normal composite nut and no zero fret, so a normal headless guitar. But as we move to the neck, we get to one of my favorite features about this particular instrument. So Ibanez lists this neck shape as a Wizard C. And when I first read that, I assumed it was going to be a very thin neck. But this neck is actually not thin at all. In fact, I would say it's a pretty comfortably chunky, I don't know, it feels kind of in between a C and a D shape. And again, it's definitely not the Wizard 2, Wizard 3 super thin neck. It's chunky. I like chunky necks, so I find it very comfortable. And as you can see, it's also a 3-piece neck. We have a satin back, very smooth, very comfortable. And of course, as you would expect, the fretwork on this guitar is really good. There's no sharp fret edges whatsoever. The leveling was also great. And we also have Ibanez's stainless steel frets. So I would say that in terms of headless guitar necks that I've tried this far, this one is definitely my favorite. But again, keep in mind, I like chunky necks. So if you like really thin necks, this is probably not the guitar for you. So as we move to the body, we basically have a normal Strat style body with a few little alterations because it's a headless guitar. This is actually pretty thin. It reminds me a lot of the Ibanez S-Series guitars, but in a headless model. So we do have some sculpting right here on the front to make upper fret access a little bit better. We have a bolt-on design on the back, and we have sculpting at the heel as well. So it's nice and comfortable in the high fret area. You can easily reach all the way up to fret 24 without an issue. We have a very subtle forearm contour that you can probably barely see on camera. And we have a substantial belly cut on the back. So this guitar is definitely extremely comfortable when you have it against your body. It's really nice to play. The top itself is of course going to be personal preference, and it's not my favorite, but yeah. If you like this type of burled top, I guess you will like this guitar. I will say that it has a very raw feel to it, and the neck also has a very raw feel. So it's labeled as satin, but it's a very raw feeling satin, if that makes sense. And then as you can see on the back here, we have two different strap pins. This is most likely not just so that you can put your strap in different places, although you certainly could. This is probably just so that you can leave your guitar down and let it balance against your amp or against the wall, which is something you can't do with a lot of other headless guitars. So that's really nice to see. Kiesel does that as well with their guitars. And something else that I really love about this guitar is the hardware itself. For a lot of headless guitars, it's really annoying to adjust the string height, but especially the intonation. Oftentimes you have to detune the whole string, move it, lock it back in, etc. It takes a long time on a lot of different headless guitars. But as you can see with this headless hardware, it's basically just a normal Strat style saddle. And then we have the tuners completely separate. So as you can see, string height right here like normal, intonation right here like normal, and then we have the tuners right here separately. And the tuners on this guitar also feel really smooth and really comfortable to turn. That might not seem like a big deal, but if you try a lot of headless guitars, you'll see that a lot of the tuners are not good at all. Sometimes they're shaky, sometimes it takes a lot of force to turn them. These are fantastic. So I would say, in terms of a fixed bridge headless guitar, Ibanez makes my favorite hardware. So I love that about this guitar. One thing that really frustrates me about this guitar, however, is the placement of the output jack. So I have this little piece of green cloth so you can just see the position of the guitar as I explain this. But for those of you who don't know, one of the benefits of having a headless guitar and a more compact body is that you can more easily fit the guitar in between your legs in this kind of a way. And then the neck points at 45 degrees-ish, which is a very comfortable way to play the guitar. If you're used to standing and playing the guitar and you find it uncomfortable to sit and play the guitar, it's because the angle of the neck is wrong. And again, compact guitars, headless guitars, they help us get this angle in a more comfortable way. Now, the issue with this particular guitar in the output jack location is that when you plug your cable in and you try to put the guitar in that position, you're going to not be able to because of the cable location. And every time I mention this with a headless guitar, someone says, just get an angled cable. Very, very high quality angled cable. As you can see, the issue is still there. I'm either going to be putting a lot of pressure on the joint of the cable itself, which is not good for your cables long term. If I turn it the other way, it's really annoying. Point being, I have tried angled cables. They can make it a little bit better if you have a certain type of angled cable, but long story short, it's not the right solution. The solution is just for headless guitar companies and really guitar companies in general to just put the jack at a different spot. Maybe it doesn't bother you, it bothers me. Editor Andre here, and yes, I'm editing this video months after I recorded it. For those of you who are now thinking I'm being too nitpicky, at one point in guitar history, every guitar with a bolt-on neck could only have its truss rod adjusted if you actually remove the neck itself. Then we realized as a community that that was stupid, so we put the truss rod adjustment at the headstock. And in recent years, we moved it again to the base of the neck on a lot of guitars because we find that even easier to adjust. These are all fairly small differences, but again, if we're nitpicky enough, if we complain enough, we can get these adjustments made. So I think I'm doing my part here with stuff like this. Also, there is literally no downside to moving the output jack location. So for those of you who don't care, it won't bother you at all if it's changed. And for those of us who do care, we can get it changed to make us happier. So let's just have companies do this more often. And now on to something I love about this guitar, and that is the electronics. I don't really know exactly what each switch does. We have a 5-way switch, and then we have this mini switch here as well. Point being, the tones are really, really good, really unique, very usable, and very Ibanez. If you were in the studio with this guitar, or if you're writing a lot of different styles of music with this guitar, you're going to get a really nice range of tones from really, really heavy stuff to jazzy stuff to bluesy stuff, single coils. It just sounds amazing. So yeah, that's the Ibanez Quest, Overall, I would say that I really, really like this headless guitar. I love the neck. I love the overall design of the hardware on the back especially, and the pickups sound fantastic. My biggest flaw is the output jack location, and if I'm being honest, I would probably just take most things from this guitar and put it in a Strandberg body. So let's compare this to Strandberg guitars for a second here. So our main comparison is going to be the Strandberg Bowden Essential, because this guitar is $1,000 and this guitar is close to $1,000. So this is going to be the closest comparison here. In terms of the locking mechanisms for the headless hardware and also the nut, they're pretty much exactly the same. In terms of the fret quality and overall fret work, I would say they're also pretty much the same. Now, I will say that I really love that this guitar has straight frets. The Bowden Essential also has straight frets, but all of the expensive Strandbergs, like the one back here, they all have fan frets. So I'll just say that I'm happy to see that this level of quality for a headless guitar from Ibanez also has a straight fret option, which is my preference personally. So of course the question is going to be, how does this neck compare to the more fancy Strandberg indoor neck? Long story short, I tolerate the indoor neck. I don't dislike it. It's not my favorite, but it also doesn't mess with me in any negative way. If I could, I would just have a normal chunky-ish neck on this guitar instead of the indoor neck. In fact, the neck I would probably have is this exact Ibanez Quest guitar. If there was a Strandberg that had this chunky neck shape, I would prefer that over the indoor neck. But again, that's just me personally, and the indoor neck is certainly not a deal breaker for me. Speaking of other things that I prefer on the Ibanez guitar, the hardware is better than the Strandberg. The tuners are easier to turn. Setting intonation and string height is also easier, and I just like the design overall better than I like on the Strandberg guitar. And I also prefer the electronics and the pickups on the Ibanez guitar to the Strandberg. The Strandberg hardware isn't bad and the pickups aren't bad. I just think that the Ibanez is great. The Ibanez Quest also comes with a gig bag. It's not as nice of a gig bag as what comes with the Strandberg, but I'm happy that they include it. But when it comes to headless guitars, for me personally, the most important thing is going to be the ergonomics and how I can use the guitar when I'm seated. And because we have basically a normal Strat style body here with, in my opinion, the wrong output jack location, sitting with this guitar doesn't feel substantially better than sitting with any other guitar. Again, very lightweight and very comfortable, but with this jack location and with this body shape, I mean, I guess it's better than a normal guitar for me personally, but it's not what I would want for $1,000 and for a headless guitar. I'm sorry if you've seen this before, but with a Strandberg body shape, I can sit with the guitar without a strap, and just in my normal playing position, the guitar can rest perfectly comfortably, and I can play guitar like this very, very nicely for hours on end, and it's very comfortable. I can't say the same about the Ibanez Quest guitar because of the jack location, and also because of the overall shape of the guitar. So in summary, if I could, I would take literally everything from this guitar and just throw it in the Ibanez guitar. I would take the neck and put it on this body, along with these pickups and this hardware. And to me, that would be a really, really fantastic, perhaps the best headless guitar with a fixed bridge for around $1,000. If you always play with your guitar in this position and you have no desire to play with it up here like this, or if you always stand and play guitar, then I can definitely recommend the Ibanez Quest over Strandberg. But if you're looking for overall ergonomics as your most important factor, you have to go with the Strandberg.